everyone, and welcome to the Rise of the Collaboratory. I'm Jacqueline Porter, and I'm a program manager here at ASU. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. Everyone, please stay muted and enter any questions for the panel in the chat, and Stephen will field them at the end of the panel. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to our moderator, Stephen Rusche. Stephen?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Arizona State University Winter Games and the workshop titled The Rise of the Collaboratory. My name is Stephen Rusche. I am the Senior Director of Smart Communities at Cox Business. My role is to facilitate interactions between our customers, folks like yourselves, and our technologies that enable those engagements. Smart infrastructure is not a new term, but it's a new application we're seeing all over the country used to really enable a lot of what we're seeing today, things that are being adopted, new technologies being adopted as we battle the pandemic, right? About how do we collect information to make better decisions during these challenging times. I'm going to introduce the panelists real quick, starting with Chris Richardson. Chris is the Deputy CIO of Product Ownership and Leadership Development at ASU. He is responsible for aligning with key stakeholders to lead the strategy, upgrade cycle, new functionality enhancements, and maintenance of several products, smart campus initiatives, and enterprise applications across the diverse landscape of ASU. He's also very excited about launching his new initiative this week, a podcast called The Urban Complex, Smarter Cities for a Stronger Tomorrow. Next, we have Barak Wiseman. Barak is the VP and General Manager of Cox 2M and Smart Communities at Cox Communications. In 2018, Barak founded the Cox 2M business for Cox, and he's led the company's commercial IoT efforts in the auto, agriculture, and smart communities domains. Next is Ed Aaronson, our local product. Ed has been with Cox since 2010 and serves as the Vice President of Cox Business Arizona, Cox's largest and fastest growing market. His telecommunication career spans over 30 years and includes executive positions with Sprint, GTE, and both VP and GM roles, leading high growth businesses. And last but not least, we have Jake Huber. Jake is part of the Smart Communities team at Cox 2M and the director of the Connected Environments Collaboratory at ASU. Previously, Jake was a program director at the Phoenix Startup Studio Complex, where he led the product and growth teams in developing over 40 technology startups. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to real quick just give you a brief introduction to the Collaboratory before I start asking questions of the panelists. The Collaboratory is a collaboration between ASU and Cox to create an innovative lab in which both parties will collaborate in research and development of smart and connected solutions that empowers students, citizens, and local government teams to live and work better as well as enhance operational efficiencies and effectiveness of the communities and businesses in which they serve and live. So what a great idea. Collaboration between the public and business sectors. Awesome. So I'm going to start with you, Chris, if you don't mind. Chris, give us your thoughts on how this all started, right? How did ASU identify the partnership, the concept of the Collaboratory? How did we get here today?
Well, I only know my version. I'm sure there's been smart initiatives before I joined ASU about 5.5 years ago. In fact, I inherited one that I think was, at least for me, an eye-opener. I joined ASU, Arizona State University, from Honeywell, and so I knew the connected world from that respect. But I inherited a partnership with Intel where the focus was to do something unique to fan engagement in our stadium, and they donated a bunch of sensors. And one of the parameters of what the sensors collected was sound data. And so, as far as we know, we created the world's first interactive sound game. I mean, you see many of them on jumbotrons around the world when you're at sports events, but they're all kind of based just to get people excited. They're not based on real data. So we were really excited. It was real data, and then we made it interactive with our ASU mobile app. and we could actually tell the fans whether they were in the winning section if they had the app through push notifications. Pretty cool. And I think what got me started is just when you can use sensors and or look at your environment differently and build relationships with functional stakeholders differently and build relationships with the best in industry, meaning outside partners that bring skill sets that you don't have. That's when you can really move the needle. And so getting to your question of how the Cox Collaboratory idea came, we actually, it started with Intel. We realized that cloud capabilities were critical. We did a partnership with Amazon Web Services that led to our ASU Smart City Cloud Innovation Center powered by Amazon Web Services. And then we looked at the connectivity side of things and the outcomes you can do with improved connectivity partners. And so, Cox and a 5G partner, the Sprint, now T-Mobile, were two big partnerships we entered with about this time last year that have been really fruitful. I think one piece that led to the Cox, well, I didn't lead it. There was a network RFP, and Lev Gonik, the ASU CIO, had the foresight. It's how do we get our teams to think differently, not just go and do a stepwise change to our network in this RFP, but how do we get them to realize that if we don't get the best communication plan and the best network and the best Wi-Fi, we can't make these things come to life. Plus there's low frequency tools. And so we had this kind of art of the possible sessions where before the RFP was official, we brought in, I think 28, 30 best in class providers from around the world to educate our teams, and not just the network teams, but also teams like mine, the solutions teams, the product teams, the engineering teams, even our faculty to understand what's going on. I mean, some of these groups brought their CEOs of large publicly traded companies. We even did a little roadshow for some, and it was designed to not only optimize the network, but prepare for an Internet of Things enabled smart campus, as well as a cloud enabled suite of solutions. And so that was a really fun exercise. We had, typically a 3-hour session, about 2-hour session over lunch. And we was there to soak up what this group of esteemed technology companies and partners thought they could bring forward. And that really influenced what was ultimately became our network RP, as well as another piece of the Cox Collaboratory's birth as an input.
That's awesome. That sounds like quite a bit of heavy lifting there on ASU's part to coordinate all of that and to bring those resources there. Ed, I'm going to ask you a similar question. How do you see this? How did Cox and Cox Arizona participate in that art of the possible whiteboard session, and what came of that?
Sure. Well, as you look around the country, smart city, smart region, it's a big emphasis in most major metropolitan areas across the country. And in order to bring it to life, the importance of public-private partnership focusing on innovation becomes more and more important. And that innovation needs to drive innovative technology that allows for data-driven decision-making, because that provides the foundation for smart campus, smart region, smart city, smart anything. Where we got involved, I'll pick up Chris's story. He goes back 5.5 years relative to the embryonic vision, where we jumped in. We had already developed a IoT business unit that Barack, one of our co-panelists, who leads and launched. We had a smart region practice that we had launched, and we were invited. We were one of the 28 companies invited for a 2-hour art of the possible session. And what was emphasized by ASU was, don't come and tell us what we know. Don't tell us about, you can talk a little bit about networking, but talk about tomorrow. Talk about innovative technology. Talk about where you're going. Talk about the things I can't find on your website or in your typical presentations. So since we have done a lot of work, as I said, in IoT and in smart region, that's what we focused our 2 hours. Besides, I mean, we did touch on the network of the future. We put together a pretty innovative and forward-thinking private managed fiber network that'll handle, ASU's bandwidth requirements for decades to come. But that was like table stakes. That's not what excited the ASU team. So we spent the bulk of our couple hours talking about the future and IoT and smart decision making and data analytics and how we could help facilitate those technologies to develop, again, smarter campus, smarter region applications. And with the net result or the objective is, improving the lives of our students and our residents and becoming more efficient. So that's where things started, and that was in first quarter of 2018. Then ASU, as Chris said, took input from 28 different companies as well as what ASU already had in mind and put together. I've been in telecom over 30 years. That just makes me old. And what ASU put together was the most forward-thinking, the most expansive RFP, certainly that I've ever seen. It stretched the vendor community significantly. In fact, there's no company on the planet that I'm aware of that could handle all the requirements, everything ASU was looking for now and into the future. So with that challenge, we ended up talking to 15 plus different companies relative to partnering opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. We ended up delivering a proposal, a collaborative proposal with 2 other companies, and we actually delivered a coordinated final presentation to ASU, all 3 companies together. And as part of that, besides defining the network of the future and how we would develop, implement, and support that, part of our proposal was a significant commitment and investment by Cox in a joint innovation collaborative effort with ASU. And that's what we announced last year at this event. And some of my co-panelists will probably share a little more detail about how things have evolved. But that was kind of the formation of the Collaboratory. ASU being super innovative, super thought-provoking, and super challenging. I've given Chris a hard time about this in the past. That RFP was a bear. But what's
I predicted that comment.
But what has come out of it, I think, is really good for all of us and for the region.
That's amazing. I love, Chris, how you challenged them to think, outside the box here and come up with not just, what can you do today, but what does it look like moving forward? Can you maybe, Chris, comment a little bit on that? What was that original? What was it that you liked about the Cox response? What was it that kind of was unique about what they brought to the table?
Well, again, I wasn't part of the RFP review committee. So one thing that I think is really important that I've seen with large service contracts, and that is the crux of many large organizations that work with them, is you build the construct of where the world is today. And so guess what? When you go into these things for 3 to 5 years, I saw it at Honeywell multiple times. I saw what in some cases what we'd had at ASU. But if you don't have the foresight, I mean, Lev got you guys all to think where the puck's going, not where we're sitting and playing today. And that gives us the runway for years, as opposed to then point fingers and complain about a contract that doesn't enable. So I would kind of answer your question that way. I think that was really the key piece, is let's think it art of the possible. Let's open our eyes to what's there. And not all it's going to be realized. We're not going to, we need to take some risks too. I think that's one thing that's been great with the Cox partnership. And you'll hear some of those when we get to some of the later panelists, is you're willing to take some risks with us, knowing that we're Obviously if we're bringing down the network or something, that's a different story, but for something that's not been tried, as long as we know, going eyes wide open, that it's tenuous and that we know where the pitfalls are, we can work around it. So I think that's really the essence, is having the foresight to really think big and get started and see where it takes us, because we won't have the answers for everything, and we'll learn together.
Yeah, I love that. It is about taking risks sometimes, isn't it? Especially when you have to look forward, years into the future to future-proof your ideas. Barack, how about you telling us a little bit about, your vision and plan? Now the deal is signed, the relationship is in place. How did you start to materialize and focus on this vision?
Of course. So, the smart campus environment to work in is kind of a dream of any person that is a creator of solutions, like we are in Cox 2M, which is the unit that delivers commercial IoT solutions and smart solutions for Cox Communications. In a campus environment, you have everything, right? You have it's like a small city. You have the roads and the people going about it. You have the classrooms, you have the meeting rooms. So you have the elements of a city, of a campus, of a corporate building environment, and much more. I think what's really unique, and the guys have been talking about that in the work we're doing in the Collaboratory, is that insight up front to leverage the scale of what ASU does today, and even something that can feel, not as smart or as exciting as a network RFP, in order to choose the right partners and secure the right investments and joint commitments to really give it a serious shot. And it's not just about a few sensors or a network, but really dedicated team on the ground from both sides that involves the full power of the most innovative university in the US, its faculty, its students, but also from us, from the partner side and the vendor side, from Cox, development and real hard dollars and dedicated teams that are working on the ground. And you have Jake, who leads that team on the ground, that I'm sure you'll hear from as we progress. But that makes the real difference, because you're not just in a phenomenal creation environment, incubation environment. You also have the right resources to actually dig into things. You have students and faculty you can solicit problems and challenges from, and then really tackle them. So I think that just the structure that lives seeded into this structure and into this partnership together with Cox has been one success factor. As for the execution side of things, I think you have several other success factors that we're putting into place in the Collaboratory. One of those is real lean startup execution, and when you'll hear more from Jake about the work that we're doing on the ground, I'm sure he will cover some of that. And the other thing is that it's a really open environment, and that's something that was really important for Chris and Lev and myself as we started this journey. Is yes, there are a lot of places that we develop something disruptive from scratch and trying to scale it, but there's a lot of things that we don't need to develop, that we can bring the right third-party partners, maybe hardware, network platform, and leverage that into creating a solution. Now, we put all of that together, we see how it works, we see what are the barriers to scaling something. Is it cost? Is it functionality? Is it, IoT sounds exciting, but sometimes just the battery life can kill the whole ability to deploy something if you don't get that right on a specific sensor. And then we identify, where do we need to disrupt? What do we need to do in order to actually scale a solution? So we started by putting the foundation in place. We have a dedicated space, dedicated team, dedicated IoT networks already deployed, and then really engage that community and work on real problems one at a time, and solving it in the most disruptive, scalable manner that we can.
Stephen, I think I can add on to a piece where
Right.
I mentioned, in that you mentioned we've got students, we've got research faculty. I mentioned earlier we have this these partners beyond you as well. but we've also invested in ourselves. And we're not just waiting for the perfect solution, because I think that's a loser's game, because everyone's trying to figure it out, and we'd rather help create it. We invested time. We read the Lean Startup together as a group. We took some risks along the way in doing that, and we've built solutions. We've digitized our stack. We've digitized some of our key interfaces to key solutions. We've modernized our data warehouse so that we can use things as we plug into what the power of what Cox brings. We can use things that are on our end that already touch our stakeholders and already touch our customers in unique ways. And I think that's really important. That allows us to innovate. We can reuse these components, and we can be quicker on our end while you bring new solutions, either through the Collaboratory or just with Cox's already existing baked solutions. I think there's really an important piece that we bring. And if I could give advice to anyone else out there listening, is think about how you create your unique digital solutions that can plug into any array of partner that you work with. It doesn't have to just be Cox.
But we prefer it's Cox.
Yeah, of course you do.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the thought of funding innovation this way, right? And it sounds like there's a path to commercialization here. Barak, do you want to talk a little bit about that and what might come out of the Collaboratory and the concepts there?
Absolutely. So something I see Lev is in the audience here, and something that we discussed early on, and we found a mutual fit in the vision, is we want to drive impact. And in order to drive impact, you need two things, right? You need to be disruptive and do it in a value-added way, but you also need to scale, and you need to get the solution out there. If we have only a handful of assets, of environments connected at ASU, and it doesn't go anywhere else, then we have not accomplished our goal. This is not impact. So there is a real, again, lean startup and business thinking behind this of how do we make these solutions affordable, scalable. We know that the cost as well as the functionality is a key barrier to commercializing IoT and smart solutions. And that's a key focus from the first incubation of a POC or any approach to solving, that we see a path to scale. And the solutions go through 4 stages. From early stage, that there you have a lot of things going into the funnel, but then you have the right stage gates to make sure that we're funding this correctly, that we're solving a real problem, that we're solving problems that other universities, campuses, and smart environments are trying to solve, with a clear eye towards commercialization. And yes, it's great for, we're a for-profit business at Cox, and yes, that's great to take things to market, but seeing that impact and enabling that scale of commercialization to come back and fuel additional innovation is just a key element of the Collaboratory. So again, you're not creating just another smart corridor, and there are great smart corridors, don't get me wrong, but you're not creating just another point of disruptive thinking, but you're actually driving into impact through commercialization.
I love it. This sounds like it has impact way beyond just the campus environment, right? Chris, do you want to maybe give us some ideas about maybe the impact or the relationship and roles of some of the other players in the region, like the Connective or other regional players?
Sure. I think, first of all, I'll define what the Connective is. The Connective is this unique interplay of this vision to engage the cities in Maricopa County in a unified way, to try to bring an easy path to experiment, an easy path to procure, an easy path to scale and share ideas. And it's kind of this multi-headed group. It was kicked off by, the idea was kicked off by this group called the Institute for Digital Progress, and they brought together the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, Maricopa Association of Governments, Arizona State University, and recently the Arizona Commerce Authority. And so they had this nucleus, and then they got all the 22 cities and towns of Maricopa County to join. And then they got members such as Cox to join as well. And so if you think about why, you've got I mean, kind of what Barack was just saying, if you can take ideation and you can bring it to life and then people can use it, I mean, that's really what world-class research is all about, whether it's done inside the company or it's done in a world-class university like Arizona State University, or it's done in tandem, or it's done at the city or collectively. I mean, I think that's the vision of all of this. And so whether it's from the perspective of ASU, we have these multi-channels. We're trying things ourselves. We're trying things at ASU with our partners. We're trying things in conjunction with our ASU Smart City Cloud Innovation Center. We're trying things that then we bring to the connective. Then we see if they work for these other cities. And if they do, then we get that pilot going, and then we find ways to scale. And so there's a method to what we're trying to do here with these partnerships and with these relationships. For our interests, it goes back to our charter. 2 of the 3 components are not directly tied to the education part. One is we pursue research of public value, not just citations, but things that get used. And we're here to serve our community. And our definition of community is pretty vast. I mean, Dr. Crow, the president of ASU, has an amazing ambition, and he's brought forward a lot of change. And so, you think about these things, they layer upon each other, but we learn from them, and then we get better because of it. And so the collaboration's key. I don't know, that's kind of my view on how the connective was structured and how it kind of fits with the things we're doing at ASU, and how the collaboratory can be an avenue as well. We figure out something for ASU, then we try it out. We say, hey, we think you as a city have this exact same thing, or you as this other university, and we can either go through the connective or we can go through a different vehicle. And I think that's what people are looking for, is how to get past the red tape, how to get started, how to understand what's possible, how to see it and live it. And that's been some of the challenges of this whole smart city, smart campus movement. Is it's just a little bit abstract, and we're trying to make it real and concrete.
I think that's perfect. There's no need for 22 cities to trial the same technology, right? Why not divide and conquer, fail fast, or experiment and have success fast, right? And then pivot and use it.
And then with the 22 eyes sitting there, you can get economies of scale, which has been one of the problems about the Internet of Things and smart city movement. The return on investment is not necessarily black and white yet. The costs are coming down, the skill level is coming up, and the willingness to try is coming up. But I mean, I think that's another competitive advantage, is that we have scale if we do it right.
I think that's perfect. And you'll have the Collaboratory contributing to that, right? Bringing those solutions to life, putting them out there for people to trial. Jake and his team can test them and make sure that they're ready for commercialization. Jake, we want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now, so we kind of have the history here, how we got here. Why don't you take us looking forward? Where are we heading from here?
Yeah, thank you. So at the Collaboratory, we have a number of different concepts that are in flight, different stages. Barack mentioned that we have a stage gate approach, so taking things through a lean methodology, really following that lean startup approach. And I come from a background from, like you said before, that startup studio I worked at. So I've had that experience of helping build new companies. So kind of bringing that same mindset into this and looking at what are these opportunities that we can work on that will have that broader impact, not only on ASU, but on the surrounding community, on their greater region. And really the focus is on working with ASU as basically as customer number one. So using ASU as this amazing resource to start with a real customer problem. And that's where a lot of the projects that are furthest along came from. So came from these real conversations with staff, with faculty around what challenges they have. So I'll give an example. One of the projects that's furthest along is we're working with a group called DART. DART offers on ASU's campus this mobility service to folks, to staff, to students that have disabilities or they have an injury and they can't move around campus. So DART has this group of golf carts, basically, that helps these students and staff move around campus, get to their buildings, get to their classes on time, et cetera. So they were using spreadsheets and didn't have a lot of insight into where all of their carts were, when people were canceling, what the best routes were. So we were able to apply some of our technology, apply sensors to those golf carts. We're starting to build a custom interface for the DART team. And really, we're working shoulder to shoulder with that ASU team as the customer, building a solution with them, for them. And ideally, a solution that we can take out to other universities or other cities or groups that have a similar type of transportation or paratransit platform. So we're working with Chad he's the director of the DART program, and like actually helping build a solution for that group that's solving a problem, like a real one that they've had and have been experiencing for quite some time. Some of the other ones that we're working on a bike parking solution to monitor how bike racks are being used and what the availability looks like, and helping the parking and transit team understand where they should be adding new infrastructure or removing infrastructure that's not being used. And that came from, again, like conversations with that parking and transit team about, just not having the visibility into making those data-driven decisions. So could we create a solution that helps them make those decisions? And also helping students understand where to park, so they don't have to lock a bike, to a street sign or to a building, and things like that. So really trying to talk to ASU staff, faculty, students to find those challenges and solve real world problems.
And if I can jump in, attending a few of the ideation sessions, you've got groups that are engaged. Jake's brought this really interesting facilitator to the forefront. The ideas are forthcoming. The collaboration is there. I mean, these are groups that traditionally IT might not have a relationship with, or might have distrust of these technologies. And it's not like we're just ideating of what the technology is. We're trying to hone in on what some of the opportunities are, some of the problems are, and bring them forward in a way that, we even help them with their own jobs in some cases. It's not always about some Cox solution that's going to be slapped on to fix it. That's not it either. Plus, a really interesting thing, that DART solution, Jake had the foresight to bring the executive director of that group to one of our ASU Cox kind of internal board sessions, and just the delight on the face of this individual as he was sharing how this evolution from those spreadsheets to this new tool and solution that'll actually solve these kind of really heartfelt accessibility issues through these golf carts was just touching. I mean, and so these are the types of things, and we know there's other ways through our group that built that. We know other universities around the nation have the same challenges. So it's just really fun to see how this process kind of feeds on itself. And, I think we have over 20 things in motion. Not all of them are going to come to fruition, but some will. And those are the stories that we can help share and potentially see realization across ASU and even beyond.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a perfect opportunity to test things that apply not only to the campus, but to the greater community around it, right? And then find quick ways to scale beyond. Jake, is this a location? Is the Collaboratory a place? Who works there? I assume you're there. Who else is there with you?
Yeah, we just finished setting up our initial space. We have a space out in the SkySong campus in Scottsdale. I call it like our sandbox laboratory. It's where we have a little LoRa network set up. We just set up CBRS. We're setting up a lot of different networking technologies so that we're able to test a lot faster and in like a safer environment. For example, like one of the projects we have on the horizon is helping the police department at ASU understand where their police officers are and help with dispatching. So rather than put any kind of device on a police officer in real time in a potentially dangerous setting, like I'm going to be strapping devices on and running around SkySong and seeing how these things really work in a close to real life setting. So we have the space in SkySong. The team is small but mighty. A handful of us. We have two from the Cox side, myself and a program manager, Angela, and we have two interns that work with us as well from ASU. If there are students on the line right now, we're going to be looking for a few summer interns coming up this next year, so feel free to reach out. And yeah, we're looking to really increase the rapid iteration of our testing with that new space that we just got live.
Awesome. Sounds like not only you're going to solve real problems, but a fun place, right, to collaborate with the faculty, administration, students of ASU, and all of the smart folks that Cox brings to the table. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
I saw a question in the chat box here, and Barak, thank you for answering that. I'm just going to share that with the broader audience here. And Michael asked, what were some of the challenges that were asked for in the RFP? Why did ASU see them as important, and what problems did ASU want to solve? Chris, I probably should start with you, but Ed, I'd be interested in your thoughts there as well. Your perspective on some of those problem solving. Chris?
Well, it's hard for me to answer because, again, I wasn't part of the core RFP team, but I do believe that as ASU looked at the opportunity of where things were going, and knowing that Internet of Things, kind of a smart campus approach, cloud enablement, and not just running a traditional maintenance of a network were critical. We need to look out in the distance. And so any way that we can find out what's core versus context, and some of what was core was actually brought back in-house in this process with the RFP, but also we know that software-defined networks are becoming a thing where you can automate through code. And so I think those were really the pieces. We just didn't want to be in the same sort of completely outsourced mode where it was based on either what was done in the last contract or even what's possible at that time. We wanted to position ourselves for the future, and we wanted to be able to know that we could scale with what's coming and continue to be the most innovative university in the nation. I think that's kind of my perspective. I'm sure Lev left, but I don't see anyone that was from the RP team. I'm sure they could give a little bit better of a detailed answer.
Ed, sounds like you were pretty close to this RFP. What are your thoughts? What were some of the most interesting problems that they were looking to solve from your perspective?
Yeah, and I can share. From my perspective, I can share what the RFP was about. I can't share, the ASU objectives, but what I can tell you was it was anything but a normal network services RFP. It was very forward thinking. It was asking for tomorrow's solutions for voice, video, data, wireless, IoT, smart region, for engineering, for LAN, WAN, wireless. The ability, it talked about the ability for someone to bring a broad range of expertise to today's issues and tomorrow's issues. I can remember in one of the Q&A sessions with ASU, them asking us our view on quantum computing. There was a whole section in there on overall program management and project management, on-campus infrastructure management, equipment and supply chain, being able to handle all equipment and supply chain needs. Basically, it challenged, realizing, ASU knew that would involve collaboration from the vendor community. So the RFP basically challenged us and all the other vendors to, put together a group, a consortia of vendors that can come as close as possible to fulfilling the holistic requirements of the RFP. So I'm doing all that from memory, and it was 2.5 years ago. So, but it's pretty close.
Very good. It sounds like this has legs. It sounds like it has opportunity to scale beyond even ASU. Barak, what are your thoughts? And Jake, maybe you guys could kind of tag team the thought of how do you take this concept, outside of Phoenix, outside of the greater Phoenix area? Is this something that this public-private partnership arrangement with the public and the universities, is this something that you see scales beyond where we are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially we know, and I think Chris alluded to that before, that the smart city, specifically the smart city space, has not progressed at the speed that we all wanted to see over the last decade or two. And we're still seeing the same bottlenecks. And by taking, vendors, which are great technology vendors, but taking a technology approach, coming with package solutions that are offered at a price point to a customer, which is a model that works very nicely in for corporate clients and other segments, but it just doesn't work and doesn't scale, both from a funding perspective as well from an adoption perspective in a city environment. So we definitely, that if you kind of take a level higher than what specific concepts and investments that we're making in the Collaboratory, but this notion of going into such a rich environment with the right resources, embedding the right infrastructure, maybe an investment in network or an investment in other infrastructure, and then getting the data out of the connected environment, and getting, if it's tracking data, whatever it may be, and then opening up that data and allowing other people to develop on that in a secure manner, treating data with the right privacy, but creating additional solutions that add more value to different segments. And we see that as definitely the future for scaling successfully smart city solutions. In the smart campus, I think it's easier. And we have this great innovation environment at ASU, and Chris and Lev were already great working with us and identifying, do we see a specific area, specific peer, specific university that for a given reason or use case, we want to extend that incubation and testing to ensure that we have something that truly scales. So that's something that we're already working on, and Jake can talk about. But definitely the notion of being a partner versus a vendor and taking the upfront investment at times in infrastructure, that's something we've done at Cox, in our core business for a long time now, and has been successful both for the community and for a business perspective. So absolutely.
Very good. Jake, anything you would add there?
About expanding into the beyond the region?
Yeah, what are your thoughts there on how the concept of the Collaboratory scales?
Yeah, I see this is a really unique situation, and that's a big reason why I joined, to have both groups, Cox, a corporate for-profit company, ASU, a very innovative not-for-profit university, coming together to create this space, to create something that commercializable ideas, feels really unique. I would love to see other, public-private partnerships come out and maybe try to recreate this, but part of me thinks it's a little bit of lightning in a bottle. It's really a great space for us to work together to solve these big challenges. So ideally, we just, we start to get traction and we start to build on the success, and we see this relationship scale in and of itself. But I think there's definitely the opportunity for partnerships like this to be, to happen in other places, but you need to go in and have the right alignment on goals. I think that was probably the most important piece of this, is that there's such strong alignment between the two groups on what we want to get out of this and the value that's to be created.
To add to that, Stephen, it comes on the heels of the connective and the smart region work that Chris and Ed talked about. So you have alignment of things. But for anyone in the audience this is intriguing and interested in discussing that, I think Jacqueline shared the email and the contact information, and we would love to engage and brainstorm the art of the possible together. That's, after all, how we started with ASU.
Yeah, and selfish, shameless plug to tie into that. We have a website up, cox.asu.edu, for the Collaboratory. So if you do have an idea or a challenge or a way that you think that we could work together, please visit that. There is a section on there around sharing a big idea with a form. I'm looking at that all the time. So if you do have an idea or something you think would be a good fit for the Collaboratory, please check that out and we'll be in touch.
Stephen, I would also say part of the secret sauce here was cultural alignment between ASU and ourselves. ASU obviously has a vision and a great desire for betterment of the entire region. Cox has a similar view of investing in all the communities we serve. So that certainly helped germinate this idea and have it grow.
You know, Ed, that's such an important point to say at the end of this, because our Cox Collaboratory agreement was not the traditional RFP, and that was very cultural oriented, and there was a lot of discussion around what it meant to partner, what it meant to bring ideas together, what it meant to co-create, and it really was cultural. It was a good catch at the end. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Awesome stuff here. I hope you don't have to wait another year to hear what's next, right? So as Jake shared, there's a website where everyone can go and share ideas. And I'm sure Jake will be sharing his updates there as well and the progress of his projects. We look forward to seeing that, Jake. Congratulations to all of you. Kudos. This is a really exciting adventure, and I just can't wait to see where it goes. Stay tuned, everyone. And I'm going to sign us off there. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.